The project is basically a mockery slash culmination of all the cliches from that plague most action movies. It's supposed to be a fun, lighthearted film that doesn't take itself too seriously. The biggest part is definitely trying to find the time to film the parts, because since we're both pretty busy people, and everybody else involved is pretty busy as well, because I'm also in a band outside of school along with school itself, so it's just trying to find the right time to film. I enjoy acting, and I find the script to be very clever and amusing, and it's just fun to be able to portray that overly macho, egotistical character. It's just a fun thing for me to do because I haven't had the opportunity to play a part like that before. So, just the fact that I get to act too serious and be that, because I basically get to be an action hero, which is what every guy wants to do ever since he's seen his first action movie, and I get to be that. So that's pretty cool. I get to get the girl, get to save the day. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? What was I expecting? Honestly, I didn't know what I was expecting because I'd never been a part of something like this before. I mean, I've done like little films on the side, but I've never been like in a full-length feature such as this. Hopefully it should be pretty good film, good for a few laughs, and I'll be proud to show some of my friends, just be like, hey, it's me. One of the first things we ever filmed was I was at the outside of Dr. Fector's evil lair, and the audio was atrocious that day because at the time they were cutting down some trees over by where we were filming. So just the fact that each time I had to have a great take, memorizing my lines and everything, all of a sudden you just hear a brrrr, and just seeing Erik's face is like completely just, are you kidding me? And that's a pretty accurate depiction of what his expression was, and just made me laugh. So I guess that would be the best one so far. Yeah. Okay, there's one where it was during the rubble scene, and I was just laying down there, and just sucked because you're laying on top of a whole rock, so you act like you're playing dead, so you have to kind of hold in your breathing, but holding your breathing makes it even more uncomfortable because your body naturally gets tensed up, and just seeing Erik come down, because he plays one of the characters in the film, he has to come down and be like, hey, are you okay? And he fell the first time that happened, almost twisted his ankle. That was a pretty good time, and I just remember between takes I'd throw rocks at people and act like I was dead, and they'd get mad at me, but they couldn't throw anything back at me because I would ruin the scene, so I just got to mess with people. It's kind of like less something to be desired, you know, a little awkward because you have to lean into it, and then you have to wait for the other actor to come interrupt it, or otherwise you just want to keep going and going, and then, I don't know. It almost been like, it would have been less awkward if we just kissed, seriously, but it was whatever. Not the worst. That's not the most awkward thing I've had to do, so. I was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be one of those things where basically, like, before we start filming, it'd be a quick, okay, gotta move your head, I'm going to stick this thing on there, you know, color it in. But I had no idea I would have to wear it overnight, and the smell itself is just terrible. I wasn't prepared for that. Erik even told me it was going to smell terrible, but I mean, it's one thing, like, describing it, it's nothing experiencing it, and I could try to describe it right now, but it wouldn't do it justice, so maybe all of you guys have to just take a whiff of it someday to know what I'm talking about. But that was pretty bad. I guess it's kind of tough at first, but then it becomes easier because then you get to overdo it, because knowing that you get to punch something with all your force, but not have to worry about actually punching anything, like, you know, hurting something or hurting your fist, or just you get to let it all out more easily. But then it's awkward for your timing because you don't know how fast it is traveling towards you, and you have to imagine this thing coming at you, this huge grenade launcher. I mean, it's a pretty intimidating object, so I have to be like, whoa, but at the same time I'm the action hero, so I gotta be like, whatever, you know, I got this. The biggest one is timing, knowing how long a pause between lines. That's the biggest one, and that's kind of up to Erik, because during film he'd give me a cue like, okay, he's done with his line, now go for it. And just thinking in my head that this guy's talking to me, trying to give me these live updates of what I'm facing and stuff like that. So at first it was really hard because I would always say my lines way too fast, because it's easier having somebody there to talk to, because then you obviously got the timing down, because that person can finish their thought, then you respond, so it's more natural. But just having to, like, wait yourself, it's almost like you're talking to a voice in your head, which is true, I guess, but it's still kind of different. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a lot worse. Because the way he made it sound like, I thought I'd be like kind of like a drill sergeant, like do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, obviously he had the ideas in his head and the direction he wanted to do, and I'd retake a couple scenes, you know, try to get more in his vision. For the most part, he just kind of let it float off, like how I would deliver my lines and how I would act out a scene, and he would just go with it. So that was pretty cool. I mean, sometimes it's hard to talk to him because he reverts to his very like 1-2 sentences, like that'll work, or let's try this, and those are like the main communication you'll get out of him. But overall, I got the idea of what he wanted because we had similar visions in our head of what the character was going to be like. So, I mean, some film shoots were rougher than others, especially when there was outside noises involved. That's when he really got frustrated. But overall, I would say a lot better than I thought. He's a good director. As much fun as it is acting by yourself, it's just a lot more fun having somebody to act with, because then you get to like, you know, bounce off each other ideas, you get to see the other person's expression. It's just a lot easier as an actor to respond to another actor versus just doing it by yourself. So each time I got to act with somebody else, it was always a good time. I'm so looking forward to filming with Dr. Factor because I feel like that's going to be a blast. One of the most challenging things is, like I said before, just finding the time to go and do it. Because every now and then I have like a block of like 1 or 2 hours, but then we realize that's not quite enough time, and just knowing that like we can't knock out a whole scene in one setting, because it's always a drag going back to the same scene over multiple days versus just having enough time to just knock out that scene in one day, which is like the most convenient thing to do, but doesn't always work out that way. So just having to get in the same mindset and deliver the same scenes over and over again, day after day, that's the toughest. Any closing thoughts? I guess I'm just glad I got to experience this opportunity, and like I said, never been a part of this film thing, and hopefully if everything turns out okay, it'll be something I look forward to doing again. So
Project is about sort of lovingly lampooning those classic action movies. As the title says, we try and hit upon as many movie cliches as we can. As the poster actually says, only one man can save the world, same old story. I think the biggest part of the project, at least as far as I've seen, has been the green screen work, the editing that happens afterward, because most of Dr. Fechter's scenes take place in a high-tech science lab, which, you know, we couldn't actually shoot in on a location. So a lot of it is just Erik going in afterward and adding in all sorts of lovely scientific screens and such in the background. Most fun thing about the project, without question, was the dance sequence for Dr. Fechter. Just put me in front of a green screen and said, "Dance, monkey, dance." Deciding on dance moves for Dr. Fechter. I don't do a lot of dancing in day-to-day life, so we kind of just sat and decided any kind of dance move that anyone on the set could throw out, I would take a crack at it. At one point during the dance sequence, I noticed that as part of an April Fool's prank, there was a box full of inflated balloons that had been spilled out, and they were laying all over the floor, and we decided, you know what? It could be pretty funny if we just kind of had a real giggly, smiley scene with Dr. Fechter as balloons just fell down from the heavens upon him. I think the funniest thing that we've stumbled across actually happened off camera whenever it was discovered that I can do a pretty good impression of the robot devil from Futurama by Matt Groening. At one point just kind of slipped into a, "Hello, Bender!" You know, we would just, I started out in the Dr. Fechter voice and then slipped into, "Hello, Airbender, welcome to Robot Hell. That's the one downside, is that I haven't really worked with a lot of the other actors on this one. Dr. Fector is primarily interacting with Mildred, who was recorded vocally and then added in later. I did have a few shots with Alex, who played Jack Jones, and again, it was just a lot of joking around between scenes that kept things going. One of the big challenges is knowing where to look, because in conversation a person will not just like lock eyes with the person that they're talking to and maintain. So actually what we did was we just took a printout of a blue robotic eye and put it up on the wall to give me a general idea of where Mildred would be, and I just kind of tried to use that as a general notion and occasionally glance here, there, and elsewhere. It wasn't as difficult as you might think. Before the shots in which I'm speaking with Mildred, we actually went in and listened to the audio for her lines, so I had an idea of how the actress delivered the lines previously. So I was able to sort of make the initial interactions seem more genuine. Having worked with and knowing a little bit about his personality, it's pretty much what I expected. It's been a lot of fun. Between takes, we've stayed on task, but managed to keep a nice joking attitude about things. Keep things real lighthearted and high spirits. My performance as Dr. Fector was strongly influenced by another mad scientist character by the name of Dr. Insano, created by Noah Antweiler. And it, for me, was just a dream come true, getting to play this incredibly over-the-top, cartoonishly evil for the sake of evil character. It's always a lot of fun whenever you can kind of play against the standard type where you're trying to be evil and serious and just go full on over the top cartoon supervillain. I think that it's going to be hilarious. Plain and simple.